Hey guys, this video is going to be a little different than my usual videos, but it's something that's important to me and I'd like to share. I'm sure, just like me, you're sick of password rules, and I've created a program that I call LitPass, which allows us to use any password we want, but also it helps protect your password too. It gives you super strong passwords, and ultimately, I think it's better than a password manager, and I'll explain why. And I'll talk about that in the video, but also I'm going to share with you my API, a Chrome extension that I wrote, as well as an Android app that I wrote, and probably some other stuff too. But let's talk about password rules real quick. I think that just like you're probably irritated with the fact that sometimes different websites have different password rules. And boy, sometimes those rules are just so stupid. Like, you ever type in a password that has like an uppercase letter, a lowercase letter, a number, and a special character, but they limit the number of special characters you're allowed to use? I mean, I just find that stuff so annoying. This allows you to use any password you want and should hopefully just bypass all those rules altogether. So this is the API. Now, to use this, all you have to do, type in a password. So password equals tree. And just like that, you get a password. This API designed it so that if you wanted to, you could incorporate this into your own projects if you wanted. But I have already written some programs that can be used so that LitPass is usable right now. One of them is a Chrome extension. So you can just open it right here. You can type in your password, and there you go. You get your strong password. Now, if you have a keen eye, you may have noticed I use the same password tree, but I'm actually getting a different result. This is starting with L5U. The strong password in the API starts with an exclamation point, so it's obviously different. The reason for that is that this application, as well as the rest of the applications that I've written, will actually hash the password before it gets sent to the API. So you end up with a different result. So in order to get a repeatable result with the API, what you'd have to do is actually hash the password. And there's a couple ways that you could do that. Let me just show you real quick. Like, if you went to a website that has an online hash tool, that can give you the hash of the password, as you can see here. However, I don't recommend this, especially for passwords and especially for anything that is of a sensitive nature, because ultimately you don't know what these websites are doing with these hashes. It could be that they're adding them to a rainbow table that they could use later for cracking. You just have no idea. Now, I'm not saying that they do this. I'm just saying you just never know. So be careful about using websites for this sort of thing. The safer approach would be to pop into a WSL session and just use something like that. Echo -n tree, and then pipe it to the SHA 256 sum, and you can get a hash that way. So if we went back to the API and we use the hash instead of the password, you can see we get the L5U password, which should be the same that the Chrome extension gives you, L5U. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the other features of the application here, which are going to be the same for all the apps that I wrote. So with the Chrome extension, or the web interface, or the Android app, it's all going to function the same way. So you can see that you also have a salt field here, which I highly recommend using. Now, the benefit of the salt is that it makes your password way stronger, makes it a super password, because the only way that somebody would be able to crack this is if they had a rainbow table for every salt. So it just makes it exponentially more difficult to crack. And even without the salt, though, this password right here would probably take trillions of years for a computer to crack. And that's if it had access to the password, which is important. A lot of times, people talk about password strength, but that's if you have access to it, right? And most of the time you don't. For example, if somebody is trying to log in to your account with your credentials, but they don't know your password, and so they're trying some different passwords, well, if it's a well-designed authentication system, it should limit the number of tries that you have. It's actually kind of strong. I mean, it's not strong because, somebody could try to guess your password. And if your password is something as simple as tree, That's how they'd be able to get in. And that used to be a problem back in the day because people would use simple passwords like tree or password or whatever. Another way you can hack into somebody's account is using like a database file of common passwords, right? So because of that, yeah, it's not very strong. But here's the thing. You add a salt to this, okay? Um, and it's going to be so much stronger. And here's the thing. In these apps, in the Chrome extension, the Android app, or even the web interface, you can save the salt. So, so it's easily repeatable, right? But also, if you want to make this even stronger, let's say you want to log into maybe your Google account or Facebook or eBay or whatever. You can actually add that to the domain field, and now this is going to generate you a new password because the API takes all of these fields. It takes your password, your little password, your domain, and your salt, and it uses those to generate the strong password. This makes it even stronger. And if you do use the domain field, it will actually help protect you from phishing as well. Because now, this happens to everybody, or I mean, maybe not everybody, but maybe you get an email from eBay and it looks totally legitimate. You click on it, and then it's asking you to log in, and you space it. You didn't realize that you clicked on a link in an email, so you just type in your password real quick and try to get into the site. Well, with this domain field, if you were to make sure that you always copy the domain of the website that you're at, it would help protect you from phishing. Because, if you notice that it's not ebay.com or whatever, then it's going to generate the wrong password. So even if you tried to duplicate it, maybe it's not ebay.com, maybe it's ebay.io or something. Well, guess what? You get a brand new password. So if you try to use this at ebay.io and ebay.io is a phishing scheme, well, they didn't get your password to eBay because your password to eBay is this. But also, you don't have to use the whole domain. You could just type eBay. If you want to protect your password to Facebook, you could just do FB if you wanted. You could even use the same little password and the same salt, but only change the domain, to wherever you go. So you kind of have a lot of options here that you can play with. And, nobody's going to know exactly what combination of words you used for your passwords. But if you want to go super, super strong, I do recommend maybe a stronger salt. Just maybe add some special characters and some numbers, maybe some, uppercase characters or whatever, whatever, just to make it even stronger. Why not? Especially if you can just save it anyway. So another thing that I should talk about in here is the Stupify option. Now, I did a little bit of research when I made these applications, and I recognized about 10 to 20 websites that had really poor password rules. And I noticed something in common with all of them. It appeared as though with any one of those terrible websites, you could use 12 characters as your password, and all of them seem to allow the same special character, which is the pound sign. So this Stupify option essentially generates you a password that should work on those poor authentication systems, hopefully, which improves compatibility. Otherwise, you want to, use the strongest password you can, of course. All right. So let me just go ahead and show you some of the other applications real quick. Let's look at the Android app. So on the Android app, you could go to the Play Store and search for LitPass. And it should come up. I don't know why it's been doing that. Okay. Probably because I'm using the scroll wheel, I guess. Anyway. So there it is. It has the same functionality as the Chrome extension, but it's just laid out a little bit differently. And then let's, if we go to the API and we type in help equals true, we get more details on how to use the API. It also kind of explains a little bit more how the API works, which gives you more intel about the apps as well. But down at the bottom here, I do have some important links. So I have a web interface, which pretty much looks exactly like the Android app and functions exactly the same too. And then I will have a link to the Chrome plugin as well as the Android application here. This link needs to be updated. I need to update that. But another thing I wanted to show you was this authentication script. Now, I posted this up to GitHub because ultimately I think what would be awesome is if, we could start using little passwords everywhere. And maybe, website owners and application owners, if they wanted to, they could incorporate LitPass directly into their sign up and login scripts so that we could use little passwords and they'll be super strong. And this gives you an example of how that would work. So you could download this, you could drop it into your project, and you could have LitPass as a part of your website or application. But also what this does too, if you're not interested in that, it does also give you an idea of what, at least I think, is a strong authentication system. You can look at these files and you can get an idea of how the passwords are managed. The most important thing you'll notice is that they're hashed on the client side. So a plain text password never actually gets to the server, which protects the user from nefarious, ignorant, or systems administrators who maybe don't like their jobs anymore. You know what I mean? So you might want to take a look at this if you're curious about that. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have to show you. I actually love talking about this stuff, so I really do hope you leave some comments down below and be brutally honest. I could take it. I am a little scared about what people are going to say, but I feel like I'm prepared. There's actually a lot of topics that I want to talk about, about why I think this is better than a password manager. But real quick, actually, I will explain that. Password managers have been known to become compromised. Users' passwords have actually been compromised through password managers. And it kind of blows my mind because I envisioned writing a password manager years ago and decided against it. But one of the things I imagined I would do if I were to make a password manager, I would require there to be a master password that would actually encrypt the passwords. However, it kind of defeats the whole purpose because then you have to type a master password every time you need a password so that it can decrypt those passwords. But here's the thing, like that's how I envisioned like the best way to go about it. But believe it or not, there's password managers out there that just store your passwords in plain text, which is unbelievable to me. and some of those companies have been hacked and users' passwords have been compromised. So it's just mind blowing. Anyway, I don't really approve of password managers personally, but I think this is better. And I really want to hear your opinions. Let me know. And I'd love to discuss it with you. I will respond to your comments, so let me know. So that's it. That's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. See ya.